Hi, this is Reverend Daniel here, bringing you another one of the recordings of my Sunday morning sermons. This is the Taste of Justice, a sermon delivered here at my church, the Unitarian Universalist Society of Grafton and Upton, on February 26. And we'll start off with the reading that went with the sermon. The reading comes from the Hebrew Bible, the book of Exodus, chapters 16, verses 9 through 17 and 31. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining." And as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the Israelites, he looked towards the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, "I've heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God." In the evening, quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much as each of you needs." The Israelites did so, some gathering more, some gathering less. The house of Israel called it manna. It was like coriander seed, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Here ends our reading. So, as a people of faith, we're always looking for ways to be more loving, and by extension, more just in our conduct. And food offers us a delicious way to add more justice to the world. In just about every culture, one of the easiest ways to communicate love and affection is to share a home-cooked meal. And this is especially true in cultures and in families without a lot of material wealth. In those humble communities and humbler households, some of the most extravagant and tastiest dishes are prepared. In those settings, one can count on a showy display of well-prepared meals, meals that disclose a richness of creativity and the technical skills of the preparer. Presentation, and by presentation I mean how the food is presented, whether or not it's presented on fancy china or fine silverware or cloth napkins, is an afterthought if it's considered at all. Really, the food is what it's all about. What matters most is transforming the raw materials, the plants, the food, animals, into something completely altered from their natural state and unexpectedly delicious. It's all about transformation, as it were. And this was the case in my humble home. My grandmother would spend what seemed like the entire morning and a good part of the afternoon preparing dinner every day. There was so much peeling and chopping. It sounded like this, and there was a lot of this, and there was a peeling, smashing of things like garlic and shallots, green onions, bell peppers, parsley, thyme, limes, and cloves. Just all of that going on all the time, smashing and chopping and putting things together. And you could smell the spices well before you entered the house. It just filled the space. In fact, you could walk down the street and tell what was going on just by the aromas that would hit your nose from the sidewalk. And if you stayed in the house long enough, you would wind up smelling like a pungent blend of herbs and spices, all of the things that are part of the deep mysteries of the Haitian art of cooking. And years later, I wondered why my grandmother spent so much time in the kitchen every day. I knew the how of it. I mean, the practical side. I mean, obviously, she was a product of a different time, a different place, a different culture. Contemporary homemakers have way too many demands on them. and even more so if they're also working outside of the home. A day spent cooking would be preposterous. So most people don't do it, and that's understandable. But the why of what she did had to do with love. Love was the reason. Now, she would never actually say those words, I love you, but she didn't have to, especially when there on the table was a plate piled high with rice and sauce pois, which is a bean sauce, and stewed beef topped with watercress and pickled cabbage. All of the evidence of love was right in front of you, right under your nose, in fact. And there was always more love that I could possibly consume in one sitting. My grandmother had other things that she could give, other ways of showing that she cared. She was a very, very intelligent woman. But food was her go-to method, and I hope that it might become ours as well. Now, let's consider the food ways on a slightly grander scale. There's a community of Benedictine monks in the beautiful hill country of upstate New York, just outside of the small city of Elmira. There, at the monastery of Mount Savior, which consists of a hilltop complex of mid-20th century whitewashed buildings, surrounded by 1,000 acres of working sheep pasture and woodlands. The focus of the site was an octagonal chapel, and in the center of that chapel was a great stone table, the altar table. From that table, daily masses were sung and the Eucharist is celebrated with bread and wine communion. Now, anyone is welcome to have this communion, which is a bit unusual. In most Christian traditions, one has to be a confirmed member of a particular church to receive communion, and that's especially true in the Roman Catholic tradition. Yet at Mount Savior, everyone is welcome to receive. And more than that, everyone is welcome to share a delicious meal that follows. Visiting men would have their meals with the monks in the refectory hall following service, while visiting women would eat with the nuns at a nearby Dominican monastery. No one is ever turned away, as hospitality is at the core of Benedictine tradition. The monks live out their understanding and their connection to the love of God through acts of service, through sharing of meals. And they also do this guided by the expectation that their legendary hero, Jesus the Christ, might someday come as an unexpected guest. So everyone is treated with the same dignity, honor, and acceptance that they hope to receive Jesus the Christ at some unknown date. They live with that sense of expectation, with a pattern of work, prayer, meditation, communal worship, and meals, both the ritualized meal of the Eucharist and more mundane meals called breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The takeaway from the Benedictine experience is that there is always an opportunity to connect with the sublime in all the things that we do, in all the ways that we live out our lives. And we can also see how hospitality, that is the care of others, can be the more active part of love. And food is a big part of that. So food is a way of saying that I love you, and it's something that we all have access to. Now, in the ancient Hebrew scriptures, the one God of the Israelites is encountered as a fantastic cloud. And sometimes that one God is encountered as thunderous rumblings on the mountaintops, or in the mysterious appearance of quails for food, or manna. What is it? So God has many ways of showing up. And you will recall from the reading the fantastic occurrence of food appearing out of nowhere upon the lifting of the layer of morning dew. Folks just woke up one morning and there was this fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost, on the ground. It was everywhere, and no one knew what it really was. But apparently, it was nutritious, like bread sent from heaven. It was like coriander seed, white, and with the taste of wafers covered in honey. Like, how amazing. Now, I don't know if we can fully appreciate just how fantastic all of this is. Now, I understand that we are sophisticated 21st century listeners, and we know that things just don't appear out of nowhere. But if we allow ourselves to suspend our disbelief, if only for a moment, we can come to love this particular story as much as I do and really see it for what it is, a fantastic example of ancient storytelling. Now, this is not actual history. This is a special kind of fantasy, a special kind of wisdom literature. And in order to hear it, we need a different perspective. And that perspective, I would say, is that of a child. So let's imagine ourselves. We are this child who wakes up and finds this fine, flaky substance coating everything. Maybe it's not too different from a fresh coat of unexpected snow on what was supposed to be a school day. Just imagine that excitement. The child is staring out of the tent in wide-eyed wonder. Maybe they're tugging on their parents' tunic, saying, follow me out. And perhaps together they might figure out what the stuff was that was everywhere. The parent looks down at the child, not sure what to say. But then maybe using a delicate finger, picks up the flakes from an aloe and tastes it. Hmm. And you know what? It's delicious. Then the parent says to the child, eat up, little one. It tastes good. You'll like it. Wow. But even after tasting it, we're not sure what it is. It's a bit spicy. It's a bit sweet. It's a kind of wisdom. It's a gift that is freely given. And this gift came at a difficult part in the journey. This traveling band of Israelites were tired, battle worn, complaining, frustrated in their seemingly endless series of frustrations, this journey without end. And yet they were told by their leader Moses, through Aaron, his proxy, that they will know their God through the humble means of food. Now, of course, there was like the curious cloud that followed them, the thunderous lightning on mountains, but it was food that would communicate this knowledge that they were not alone in their journeying and that the divine was with them even there. A satisfying meal would be an opportunity to connect and know the holy. It's amazing. Encountering the holy through mundane tasks and chores in our lives is wonderful, and it's hardly news to anyone who's heard of mindfulness. Yes, everything that's done with the right intention is a holy act, especially when, say, our UU principles are guiding us in those intentions. That's kind of old news. But the new knowledge is this, that everything that is done with love serves the cause of justice making. And let's face it, everybody's got to eat. So why not do that with the intention of love and justice making? Love calls us out to do certain things, and those things tend to be just. Martin Luther King Jr. is quoted as saying that justice is love in action, and I firmly believe that. The food doesn't need to be wonderfully prepared or the mysterious manna coming from heaven to be good. It doesn't need to taste extraordinary. Everyday foods are an opportunity to connect with the holy. Every meal is an opportunity to connect with the holy. And no matter how extravagant or how simple or how unadulterated, food offers us a way in to knowledge, knowledge of love, knowledge of God. And every bite of food is a direct communion with the spirit of life, communicating nutrition and flavor, knowledge and power. And think about the sheer diversity of cuisines in our own backyard. Like where I live in Shrewsbury, I have to drive 2 minutes before I find Thai, Indian, Italian, Japanese, British, Iranian, and Russian cuisine. And the list of flavors go on all around us. And surely together, this kind of explosion of flavors and cuisines gives us an indication of the type of benevolent force that pervades the universe, a force that clearly delights in difference, delights in diversity. Our task is not only to taste and see how good the Lord is, as a psalmist once wrote, but to communicate that knowledge to others, to being deliberate in who we share this abundance with, and who we share our meals. Meal sharing can be an act of justice making, and justice is a tendency towards greater fairness in society, as reflected in the rules and ethics and laws that honor human dignity and interdependence. That's what justice is, and food allows us a way into creating societies that reflect that understanding, that reflect that virtue. And justice begins where we are. We are very good at feeding each other. I can say that about my congregation here. In fact, one of the things that most impressed me about this church during my ministerial search process was the quality and the quantity of its delicious meals. One is not relegated to hummus and crackers here. The delicious meals we lavish on our families, friends, fellow congregants, and ministers are a sure embodiment of divine love, a precursor to justice, a necessary precursor to justice. However, I believe that our circle of concern, and by that I mean the guests at our table, needs to expand in the cause of justice making to include a greater number of people. We have to expand that circle, make it as wide as possible. And who should we include? We should include all people who are wandering in the wilderness of life, wilderness in the sense of difficult and rough places. These people are our absent loved ones who we haven't spoken to in years. These are people with public roles who often go unthanked. People like teachers, medical providers, police officers, firefighters, civil servants of all kinds. Our circle of concern needs to include those on the margins of our society, those many who are far too great to name. And lastly, and this is of particular importance to us in the age that we are in right now, in this era of xenophobia, that we must include the strangers among us, the immigrants, especially those from Central America, especially those of the Muslim faith, who right now are facing the brunt of discriminatory practices on a local and a national level. Let's use our resources to connect with the holy and with the wisdom that food is a ready means to do so, the ready means of expanding our circle. We can do this. We can do this here. Not everybody's going to be on the front lines in fighting for systemic change. Not everyone is physically able to form a human chain to block traffic in Worcester to protest unjust policies. But everyone can serve, and everyone has got to eat at some point. So the image that I want us to hold on to is the abundance of the fine, flaky substance in the Exodus story, the bread from heaven. I also want us to hold on to the image of incredible hospitality that is part of the Benedictine tradition. And I also want us to hold on to the gift of simplest ingredients, the ingredients that my grandmother would use. Those images stay with me, and I hope that they will stay with you. Manna, what is it? It's the manifestation of love, and it's all around us. And it's freeing to say that food is divine, and to say that it is also a way to honor the holy in every person. Our kitchen tables are far bigger than we imagine and more impactful if we could just open them wide. Using simple ingredients, lovingly prepared, we can usher in a new age of justice, one that our world so badly needs. Sitting down to share a meal can be the start of something big. Where will we begin? Who will we invite? And when will we invite them over? In the words of Lillian Nye, a UU writer, she says, "Let our tables stand as altars." I hope our tables will stand as altars. And in doing so, we will feed our own hunger, the hunger of others, and satisfy our collective thirst and taste for justice. May it be so, and amen.